Welcome back to Driving Success, a Fleet Advantage podcast, a show where we bring you expert insights in the latest trends going on in fleet management and transportation. I'm your host, Tracy Derival, and today we are bringing you the final part of our Summer of Safety micro-series focusing on CVSA's Brake Safety Week. So we hope that you've enjoyed and found our series to be helpful so far as we focused on the safety and well-being of driver and corporate transportation fleets. We are going to dive into our final discussion with Matt Wiedmeyer, who is our Director of Fleet Services here at Fleet Advantage. Let's start the episode. Hi, Matt. Thank you so much for being our guest, and thank you so much for helping us kick off Brake Safety Week.
Thanks, Tracy. I appreciate you having me in here. It's great to get in off the road.
Awesome. So can you tell us a little bit about your role here at FA and also your background within the transportation industry?
Sure. I've been with FAA going on 4 years now, almost 4 years, be real short here.
Me too.
And I am a director of fleet services and one of three here. We help the customer from beginning to end. So once we get the lease in, I help with specs. I help with making sure that they have the right spec for their application. Once we get the trucks down on the ground, I will go ahead and I do on-site evaluations and inspections of not only the leased fleet, but their fleet, if some still do own some of their equipment, right? And then I do shop inspections as well for them if they so ask. And then we do end up helping with surrenders, working them through that process to make sure it's as painless as possible for them. And as far as my transportation background goes, I've been in the transportation industry going on about 19 years. I've been in the transportation side, planning, routing, safety, maintenance, and that's kind of where I just started at. I did that. I went into transportation and all that after I retired out from the fire department. So,
and how long were you a firefighter?
About 34 years.
Wow, that's a long time. And that's really cool, by the way, because I don't really meet too many firefighters, but that sounds really cool. So obviously, we're here to talk about Brake Safety Week. So can you start by explaining what is CVSA's Brake Safety Week and what are the primary goals of the campaign?
I'm not going to overuse the acronyms, but CVSA, the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance, works hand in hand with the Federal Motor Carrier Administration, FMCSA. Their primary goal is to make sure that the trucks out on the roads have good brakes. That's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Right. And thank you so much for sparing us with the acronyms. I thought that was pretty hilarious, by the way. Can we talk about some of the brake-related violations that are usually common? Can you share what are some of the most ones that are commonly found? And then how does that impact overall commercial vehicle safety?
So last year, during their inspection, 8 of the top 20 violations were brake violations. Pads and linings were a big focus from last year and is now the big focus this year. Other violations that were found were chafing brake hoses, bad drums, bad slack adjusters, air leaks on the brake system. Just a simple air leak will cause the vehicle to go out of service if it's big enough.
Right. Okay, now I wanted to talk about the blog that you just published recently, by the way. In there, you were talking about giving some tips on what drivers should be doing during their pre and post inspections, during their regular routine. So can you share some of those tips that you were sharing as far as making sure that their brakes are in perfect condition?
Sure. They need to do a very good pre and post trip inspection. It's critical. Pre-trip obviously is before they go out on the road, and then post trip is when they come back from their trip. Or, if they're the over-the-road driver, they need to be checking when they stop to take their break and things like that. Just a quick glance to make sure that everything's in good working order. They need to be looking at the pads, the linings, need to be looking at the drums and the rotors for crazing, cracking, bluing, which would be an indicator the brake drum or the rotor was heated up to a point that it probably is no longer going to function correctly and place the equipment out of service. And if that's the case, when they see it on a pre-trip inspection, then that equipment would be placed out of service and they would have to grab a new unit.
Right. So now let's talk about the companies that have their own maintenance department. What should the maintenance team be looking at during their usual inspections, just to make sure that their brake systems are also compliant as well?
So the maintenance people at PMs, they should be looking for missing pads, missing linings, looking at rust jacking, which is a condition where rust builds up behind the lining and pushes it out, may crack the lining, making it non-compliant. Looking for the same things, some of the same things the drivers are looking at on the drums and the rotors, as far as cracked, crazing, bluing of the drums and the rotors, rivets pushing out into those areas, causing uneven surfaces on the drums and rotors, even rusting of the drums and wheels. And then furthermore, hub oil or grease on the linings would indicate not only that the brake shoes or the brake pads are no good, but would probably indicate an even bigger problem with the wheel itself, meaning there's a leak somewhere else, and would cause probably potentially a wheel off event, which that's an even bigger problem than not having brakes.
Yeah, that sounds like a major issue. So if I could just switch gears just a little bit, I wanted to touch on the recent unannounced brake safety check that happened, right? Can you share what was some of the major findings during that inspection, and how does it impact the ongoing efforts when it comes to like brake safety?
Sure. About 5,000 vehicles were inspected during that little blitz. 570 were brake violations. 185 were for pads and linings. That's why there's that big focus on the pads and linings this year during the entire week. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just one of those things that they really want to push this. They want to make sure that these vehicles can stop. They're also going to be doing some, at certain locations, performance brake testing. It's PBBT. Only certain locations will have that. And what that is it's basically out on the yard, they would call it a tug test amongst the transportation people, but making sure that the vehicles hold when the tractor is pulled forward, or vice versa, the tractor itself is pulled forward, do the brakes hold? And it really does affect across the nation the ability for the driver to stop. It's not only their safety, it's also the public safety.
Right, exactly. Just to close off everything, because we did touch on a lot of information, is there any tips or advice that you want to share with our audience as they get ready for Brake Safety Week and beyond, just to make sure that they're passing their vehicle inspections and just maintaining overall optimal brake performance?
Sure. For transportation and safety departments, they need to be pushing the drivers to make sure they're doing good pre and post trip inspections. For the drivers, they need to be doing good pre-trip and post-trip inspections and reporting any deficiencies. For the maintenance people, they need to make sure that they're staying up on their training. And again, as far as training is concerned, there are a lot of OEMs that offer free training out there on brakes and those types of things for the maintenance departments. And then keeping up on what's going on with CVSA, the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance.
There we go.
That's right. And then FMCSA. That way, they're not putting their CDL in jeopardy for CSA points, or the company in jeopardy for CSA points, causing it to be more apt to have more inspections on them.
And on that note, Matt, we just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show today and really giving us some great insight and information on the importance of Brake Safety Week and just making sure that our drivers and our fleets are staying safe, this week and beyond.
Well, thank you for having me on, Tracy. I appreciate it.
And that is a wrap with this episode. Our Summer of Safety series is coming to an end. Time flies when you're having fun, but we hope that you all have gained some valuable insights on all things safety and have been able to apply some of this newfound knowledge in your daily operations. And the goal is just to keep your drivers and fleets safe. So to catch our entire Summer of Safety series, you can head over to our YouTube channel for the videos. And for our listeners, episodes 4 through 6 will be available on your favorite podcast platform. So continue to join us next time as we will be exploring the latest trends that is shaping the industry. If you enjoyed today's show, please like, share, and leave a review while you're at it. You can watch this episode on our social media platforms such as YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. You can listen to this episode on your favorite podcast platforms such as Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts. Until next time, let's continue to drive solutions together.